faster than a speeding typewriter, more powerful than a printing press, able to speak over tall buildings in a single sound. Look, up on the dial!
It's a conservative!
It's a liberal! It's Supermouth! Yes, it's Supermouth, strange visitor from the past with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal talk show hosts. Supermouth, who can change the course of local politics, bend ears with his bare mouth, and who, disguised as Mike Wiley, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan radio show, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Let's synchronize our watches. I have 20 past 11 here on the east coast of the United States of China. And, I'm sorry, I meant to say United States of America. I just was paying attention to who's running this damn country, not us. I'm going to try to be calm today and relax. There's an awful lot of stuff I was going over. I've had to make a couple of strategic changes because of the law. And let's just take this stuff right from the beginning of what's happening. I make a list of everything I'm going to go over, and then I have all these things, and I'm just going to go through them one by one. You guys can organize it later. But there is a strategy to what I'm going to present. But because we are in constant battle with the Democratic Party, I'm going to cover what's happening just in this day and explain to you what's going on. You probably know, you probably have figured it out by now, but it's good to tell you. So what's happened is, that Jack Smith has made a big mistake. And the mistake is that he is attacking Donald Trump for, of course, fraudulent scenarios that never existed. But, I mean, what else are the Democrats going to attack him on? Okay? It's already illegal for Donald Trump to speak, and it's already illegal for Donald Trump to talk on a telephone. So I don't know what the next thing is. Are they going to prevent him from going to the bathroom? Is that going to be made a law? So Jack Smith recognizes that he made a mistake. Now, as you don't know, or if you haven't realized it, but the Fox News has picked it up, and I'm sure Newsmax has. I don't waste my time with Newsmax. I know some of you like it, but I'm more media oriented than you guys, so I have certain aspects of how I look at things. So Jack Smith has made a crucial mistake. Now it's his job to prepare these things to come out when Joe Biden calls him and say, "Hey, I'm in big trouble. They've discovered more information about the crimes I've been committing for some 40 odd years, and I need you to come out and attack Trump on something I did." Okay. Famous Marxist ploy. Attack your opponents for what you did and what you're guilty of doing. So Jack, I think is his last name Smith or Off? Jack Off? No, I said Smith. Don't mind me if I have fun with this, but it's very troubling. It's very troubling. Matter of fact, you may notice that the shirt I'm wearing today is different than the shirts I normally wear because we've had to employ the Green New Deal program in Florida. Now, as you know, there's this concern about climate change and what's going on with climate change. And climate change, well, let's look at it two ways. First of all, the first word is climate. So we know it has to deal with the climate. Then the next word is change. And that means that there's a change in the climate that we have to be concerned about, especially here in Florida. Because in Florida, we have climate change occurs all the time. Back in 1999, 1990 and 1991, when I first moved to Florida, living in Orlando, we had this horrible climate change situation. About the third week of February, the temperature would be 92 degrees every day. And that would last until about the third week in December. And then the weather would change. So you had like 2 months of maybe cooler weather, but you had hot weather, 92 degrees, okay? The temperature, unfortunately, didn't change as much as the Democrats would like it to, but now it's been some 30 years later, okay? I'm back in Florida. It's now 2023. That was 1990s, 1993. So 30 years have gone by, and of course, the temperatures now are 127 degrees. No, well, no, not really 120. I know you would say, oh, it must be like in the 120s because it was 92 in 92. Yeah, 92 in 92. It must be 123 in 2023. But that's not the case. I think the people on climate change are full of shit. But it is a major program of fraud. The Democrats employ fraud all the time. Matter of fact, part of this show is going to present to you why I believe that the war between the states, the Civil War, the war between Republicans and Democrats, has never ended. All it did was the Democrats in the South recognized that they were losing battles. And they had the big battle in Gettysburg, and they didn't win that one. That was the gambit that they went out to play, and they didn't win it. Thanks to this stupid Pickett's charge. Holy shit, was that dumb. But they did it. Maybe General Lee was feeling his age or something, but that was a big mistake. And the North held, and soon the war ended. But the war didn't actually end. Just the phase of battlefield war ended. Okay, on April 9th, 1865, at Appomattox Courthouse, General Lee surrendered to Grant and said, that's it. I'm pulling my guys back. They fought bravely, and they've just, so many men were killed in that war to free all Americans. But the Democrats realized, we're not doing well in this, on the ground shooting war. Let's play the scumbag war. Let's become scumbags, and let's always be scumbags, and we will always commit fraud. We will always lie. Our intent is always to deceive. The Democrats' intent is always to deceive the American people into thinking A and B do not equal C, that 2 and 2 is actually 7. And by the way, 2 and 2 is actually 7. And here's how you get to 7. Okay, you read the newspaper, that's not the New York Times or the Post, and you see 2 and 2 equals 4. But there's a 3. You don't see the 3. It's on page 27. You take that 3, and then 2 and 2 is plus 3 is 7. That's how you have to work it with the Democrats, okay? Because they give you 85% of something, and then they hold 15% back to shove up your ass later. So, yes, I am stating that we are still at war with the Democratic Party. We've been at war with the Democratic Party. And because of that, I have concluded that the method of our attack or counterattack with the Democrats of filing a RICO action against them, which we could do, but you've only got a limitation of 10 years, and the RICO Act, and it's just, I have it right here. I just need to read a couple of things to you. Don't go away. Don't change. Don't touch that dial. Hopefully it's here. I'm going to have to hire an assistant to put all this stuff in order for me, because I keep going through this stuff. I'm horrible with paperwork. I've always been horrible with paperwork. And it's not here. Okay. Chapter 96, 18 USC Code, Chapter 96, Racketeering Influence in Corrupt Organizations. I need to read this to you just briefly. Okay, racketeering activity means any act or threat involving murder, kidnapping, gambling, arson, robbery, bribery, extortion, dealing in obscene... Hold on, I gotta fix this. Okay, there we go. So, hey, you're more centered, Mike. I'm in the center. I'm not right-wing, and I'm not far-right. I'm straight lunatic. Which you have to be to do this stuff. Racketeering activity means A, any act or threat involving murder, kidnapping, gambling, arson, robbery, bribery, extortion, dealing in obscene matter, dealing in controlled substance or listed chemical, which is chargeable under state law, blah, 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 okay? It doesn't mention treason. And it doesn't mention sedition. And it doesn't mention crimes against humanity. And that, folks, disqualifies us using RICO. Because if we're going to fight this war, let's fight it from the beginning so we understand exactly what we're dealing with. All right? I'm going to be sending this out to every Republican Party chair for him to be able to present, or her to be able to present to her group. Because, as Donald Trump said the other day, Republicans don't fight. I'm so pissed off that Republicans don't fight. The only Republicans that actually fight are we Democrats that now are Republican. You know, we knew how to fight. We learned how to fight. We know how to tear people's throats out. And that's what needs to be done. Our nation's in deep shit. But, you know, we can fix it. Now, of course, I'll be labeled an extremist. Remember, an extremist is not someone who goes with Black Lives Matter and Antifa and destroys cities and towns and businesses in Minnesota for $20 billion worth of damages and killing 70 people or 80 people and injuring hundreds. No, that's not terrorism. Terrorism is defending the United States, defending the Constitution, defending the Republic. The Republic. Remember the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Republic for which it stands. Not the democracy, to the Republic. We started out as a nation of free states, aligned together, 13 states. Alliance of Free 13 States. The organization I have started and will be the major nonprofit for this scenario is the Alliance of Free States. And I just got the website transferred over. I have to work on it, and then I'm going to see about hiring somebody to put it together the right way, because since it's a nonprofit and it's going to have expenses, and I can only donate $2,500 to it to start it off. But that's part of the proceeds from my 6-year war against scumbags in Rhode Island, which I won. I didn't win as much as I wanted to, but, you know, if you can come away after 20 some odd years or 30 years of law and be basically undefeated, that's pretty good. So, we can't use RICO. All right, and RICO is going to go up on this pile here. So, we can't use RICO. And I came to that conclusion when I was going through things. And then it was actually I was tuning into Fox News on YouTube. There's a YouTube thing on my TV where I can go through the YouTube videos that they have, you know, clips of news and stuff. You get to see speeches about Trump and stuff like that. And then you see all the bullshit from NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and all that other left-wing horse shit. That's all full of shit. So that's why we can't use RICO. Now, before I get into the crux of the presentation, I fell down the rabbit hole this week, and it's a deep hole. And it kind of proves that you can find out all the information you need to know about the enemy of this nation, which is the Democratic Party. They are the enemy. There's too much proof about it. All you have to do is watch these assholes fight the Republicans in the Congress. And you say to yourself, why do we have them in our government? That's like saying, why doesn't Israel have about 75 Nazis in their Congress so they can fight every day with the Nazis trying to get something done? Why do we have Democrats in our government if they hate our country? And I gotta thank Mark Levin, a fellow Luntsman, who wrote the book, The Democratic Party Hates America, which was perfect timing for me, because that's what I'm presenting in a sense. My alliance of free states, the war between the states constantly existing. You know, when you start looking into shit, you start realizing there's more to meets the eye. And the more that meets the eye is the fact that if you think about it, everything you know from television, or you read a book, you read some form of media, or watched some form of media, or listened to some form of media. So history is what you believe it to be based on what you've heard. And I started going back, and I began to use this premise theory. Intent. The Democrats intend to destroy America, but the media never writes about it. The media never points it out. The media is blind to it. But the Democrats in their media always want you to believe that Trump commits all these crimes. He's guilty of all these crimes. But in none of these crimes do they point out to his mens rea, which is his mind and what condition his mind was in and what he was thinking of before he committed the crime. So, for instance, what was in Donald Trump's mind before he picked up the telephone to talk to the president of Ukraine? What was his intent? Was his intent to commit a crime? How many crimes are committed over telephones? Maybe gambling and stuff like that, and whatever. I'm sure the police came up, but they never have improved any intent. Okay, just now, January 6th, they're going after Trump, and understand the reason they're going after Trump is it's the elephant shit, dog shit program. Okay, dog walks down the street, stops and takes his shit. Okay, you notice it. An elephant walks down the street behind the dog and takes a shit right where the dog shit. And then the elephant leaves. And you look and you go, holy shit. You notice that? Well, this is what the Democrats do. Okay? They dump shit. Large amounts of shit on the American people, hoping that some of it will stick. So just earlier today, I saw some bullshit about the fact that the American people are now thinking that these crimes against Trump on January 6th are real serious and they're real. Like 61% of them and 41% think it's just fake. But see, that's what the Democrats are trying to do. The Democrats are like magicians, with fake magicians. Oh, they show you this, but they're doing this. They're showing you that, but they're doing that. They're always trying to get you to believe something that isn't real. And they've been doing it for 160 years. Okay? And it started on April 9th, April 9th, 1864, when they decided to pull their troops. Actually, it's 1865, pull their troops off the battlefield and say, okay, we're done. Okay, they surrendered. And then 5 days later, they sent an actor in to assassinate the Republican president. And why? Why this is so crucial. Okay, because remember, everything the Democrats do has an intent to it. And what is the overall intent of the Democratic Party? Spend America into debt. Make us debts. Make us slave debts. Okay? Remember, the Democrats loved slavery. They liked having blacks as slaves. But then after the war, they said, okay, we're not going to enslave the blacks. We're going to enslave everybody we can. And so we're going to come up with all these ways to enslave people through the government. And that's what they do. And they do it all the time. And when Barack Obama came into power, I mean, that was his key thing, was A, making sure the United States surrendered to China without us knowing that we surrendered to China, and then getting into all these shit things like the Ukraine and all sorts of bullshit. That's what they do. And maybe that's why, hold on one second. Maybe that's why the Clintons were so full of shit and guilty on crimes. Obama was so full of shit and guilty on crimes. And Biden's so full of shit and guilty on crimes. Don't you think there's a pattern there? Well, that pattern goes all the way back to the beginning of time, just about. And that's what we're going to briefly cover. But I got to talk about this first because, you know, besides the fact that we're in a war with the Democrats for the freedom of this nation, we're also in a battle of a war. I call it Earth Wars. I came up with a concept in 2010 with the the beginning of Obama and his bullshit and what I saw going on, and I realized that what we saw in the TV in the movies Star Wars was basically what we were seeing here: the Empire versus the Republic, and the United States of America is the Republic. And in 1913, we changed from being a republic to an empire. And we've talked about it before. We've showed it to you before, but we're going to continue with it because you'll see the progressives or the communists. Progressives is a modern day term for communist pig scum. So that we're going to show you. So in 1865, after they assassinated Abraham Lincoln, the question is, why did they assassinate Abraham Lincoln? All right, well, first of all, his presidency would have benefited blacks. Okay, I don't know what the hell it is. I still can't understand why black people in America vote Democrat. These are people that hate your guts. And I think it's because the Democrats have such an elitist aspect about them. But they do everything that harms black people, okay? The assassination of JFK, that hurt black people, okay? Donald Trump committed some serious crimes when he was president. One of them was he adjusted the Prison Act so that more people could come out of prison if they had been wrongly accused or they were charged with 10 years for committing throwing a piece of paper on the ground or something. He went ahead and gave the black colleges, historically black colleges and universities, HBCU, gave them a 10-year grant. He says, why do people have to come in every year asking for more money? Here, I'm doing this for 10 years. Bam, here's your money. You don't have to come back. It's not that I don't like seeing you. You guys come in and, Trump is an entertainer. Trump loves people. He loves all people. And it was always proven. It's always been historical. But again, you've got to take this character and destroy its character if you're the Democrats. And that's what they do. Especially Trump, because Trump used to be a Democrat. And all of Trump's money used to go to the Democrats. And now it doesn't. So before I get into the Civil War, 200-year war, 160-year war, I have to tell you what happened to me this week. I was trying to do something what I thought would be pretty simple. I have this web program. I've had a website since in 2005. I wrote this book. In December 2005, I wrote a book that I had been planning to write since 1994. It just took a while for me to get to it. It's called The Diary of Hillary's Right-Wing Conspirator. Okay. Let me just read the back to you. Millions of Americans listen to talk radio daily. Over time, a one-to-one relationship and emotional connection develops between the listeners and the host. In this case, conservative radio talk show host Mike Wiley could no longer face the people's cries about President and Hillary Clinton without doing something about it. Ignoring the threat of losing his show, Wiley led one of the largest rallies in Florida history to defeat major gun control legislation and protect the Second Amendment. With the defeat of the legislation just 2 days later, Wiley crossed the line and began walking the talk by entering Florida's 1994 U.S. Senate race. At the end of that rally on that Saturday, I had some Republicans come up to me offering me money to run for U.S. Senate to defeat Connie Mack. And that's what I ended up doing, but I wasn't doing it in a Republican primary. I would run as a Democrat and stay in the Democratic Party, but be pro-American, because the Democratic Party at that time was pretty pro-American. There was at least 1 million Democrats that normally vote Republican weren't voting for Connie Mack, and that's why I was, chosen or polled to win, because there was going to be 1 million Democrat votes for me that weren't going to be him, and that's a 2 million vote swing. Mike Wiley made history when he received 25% of the votes in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate on a campaign budget of only $20,000, while most Senate campaigns cost millions. Wiley ran one of the most effective grassroots campaigns in U.S. history, finishing second out of 4 candidates and forcing a runoff with Hillary Rodham Clinton's brother. This book is a must-read for anyone. Now pay attention to this, because it is. This book is a must-read for anyone considering a career in politics, because it exposes some of the dire consequences a candidate will face when confronting this country's left-wing menace. I know how to fight the left. A lot of Republican strategists, I don't know where their head's at. Maybe they're up their ass, but we lose too many battles with these guys. Fearing a conservative victory in the battle for Florida's Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton orchestrated an extremely dirty campaign from the White House. 3 days after Wiley refused the left's intriguing offer to drop out of the race. Now, I could have used the word illegal, because it's illegal to offer a bribe to drop out of a federal election. But it's just another crime the Clintons committed. 3 days after Wiley refused the left's intriguing offer to drop out of the race, the far left and its media stooped to accuse the Jewish talk show host of being an anti-Semite. It's nice being an anti-Semite Jew. Yeah, I've been one all my life, haven't I? Haven't I, Hillary? Hillary herself campaigned at Jewish synagogues, although she would later deny any involvement in the anti-Semitic spirit. She's so full of shit, it's amazing. Was the 1994 campaign the first desperate acts of presidential hopeful Hillary Rodham Clinton? The Diary of Hillary's Right-Wing Conspirator revisits what she demands you forget and what she wants you never to know. Great book. I know I wrote it, and a $20 donation to the Alliance of Free States. We'll send it out to you along with an I Am Trump button. I didn't wear the red button today because this is the new shirt. It's my climate change shirt, and I will always be wearing a climate change shirt. Okay, these came from Hawaii via China, I think. Yeah, unfortunately, everything's made in China, even if you order it while you're on Facebook. So, So in 2005, I had the website created and the Wiley Information Network was created. And then in 2010, we created the Alliance of Free States, and we established it as an organized nonprofit in Nevada, but never got to do anything really about it because the economy was so bad, and the fact that I was making $94,000 a year as the CFO of a private educational institute. When the shit hit the fan, I was unemployed and struggled. Of course, that's because there were Democrats in the White House. You ever notice how America struggles when Democrats are in the White House and Democrats control the Congress? We don't have money, but they sure know how to spend and tax us. And that's what we're getting. You're going to show that today too. Anyways, so now it's Wednesday, and I'm gonna get some work done on my website. So I call up Homestead, which has all their technicians. I think it's against global law to have a technician for the internet that's not in India or Somalia or wherever the hell they have these people. Okay, all I know is they barely speak English. They talk too fast, and it's very frustrating to try to listen to them and deal with them. But it's better than employing an American veteran, huh? You know, especially these veterans that have lost limbs and walk around with canes and are in wheelchairs. Okay, yeah, well, let's not figure out a way to put them to work in their own home so they don't have to worry about leaving, and they can start and they could work 5-6 hour shifts making money for themselves. No, let's not put Americans to work. Let's send the work over to another country. So I'm talking to this asshole, and the phone number doesn't match, or oh no, I gave them my. They still had my old address. They didn't have my new address, and I couldn't remember what the zip code was. And they were gonna, everything is so, pardon this expression, fucked up because of security and this and that. You know, every time you get online, you got to get a text message to make sure you're you. I'm so sick of that bullshit. I am. I'm getting really sick of that shit. So I'm talking with this guy, and I've just had it with him. And so I go, okay, let me look it up. So I look it up. I get him the zip code. He can't call me on my phone number because they still have my old phone number from a year ago. So he goes, well, can you tell me what the last 4 numbers on the credit card that you used? And I was able to tell him, because he goes, okay, but I'm going to need this is where I went Bluey Tunes, okay? I can't stand talking to people who don't know what the F they're doing. He says, well, I need the whole credit card to be able to make sure that you're online or whatever. What the hell he was saying? So I go online and go to my bank account, and I look and I go, oh, look, June 28th. That's when they last charged my account $16.88. They have my card. Why is he asking for my whole card? Usually they only ask for the last 4. Because this guy was either untrained or he was being an asshole. And I said, look, I've been with you people for 17 years. I'm a very loyal customer. All I got to do is give me the service. I don't care if I'm paying $1 or $2 more for something. I went berserk. I went, that's it. That was done. I go, you guys just threw a 17-year relationship out the door. So I started looking for another hosting company, and I found one, and I hired them, and then I fired them on Thursday, the next day, for basically the same baloney. And I just said, oh my God, it sounded like I was talking to the same people from the other company. So then I go and I'm looking for another hosting company, and I found one. These guys are from Bulgaria, and they're former college students that started up an internet company, and they're in Texas and they're in Virginia. So they have like certain operations. They have operations globally. 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 Remember, we are not just an American nation. We're a member of a global Earth. And that was why I created Earth Wars back in 2010. Because I saw the beginning of global shit. Yeah, it had been around for a while. I'm talking to these people. I can understand what they're saying. And we worked everything out. And so I go ahead and said, okay, all right, I'm going to make this, I'm going to switch to you guys. So sometimes these people aren't clear. And I have a reading disorder. That's why I wasn't a lawyer, because I can read stuff, and I maintain quite a bit of data in my head from having a photographic memory. But this was an issue. So the guy says, all right, you need to do this, do that. And he says, first thing, you don't have to transfer your websites right now. You can point them to us, because we're going to be doing the hosting. So I was showed what to do with that. And I went on the old site, pointed them over. He said, it's going to take a couple of days, and then you can go ahead and transfer the hosts of the websites. And so he said, and he told me how to do the email. So I went and switched the email for Mike at WileyInfinite.com. I hadn't even done the Alliance of Free States yet, because the Mike at Wiley Infinite is my main email that I use on a regular basis for all personal stuff and business that has nothing to do with the wine business that I'm involved in. I switch over the email, so I'm getting my email. I lost all the data. You lose all the files from your previous email thing, so all that historical stuff was gone. It wasn't too much, because it was, accounts and stuff, and, lows and stuff like that. So I made that switch, and then I go to transfer. The next day, I go and I transfer the website, the domain, to them, WileyInfinite.com. So I go to transfer the website, the domain name, and the transfer fails. Jeez. I thought I did it right. Why did it go wrong? So I call up these guys in the service area and explain to them what's going on. And they have all this shit they can look up and see. And they can see all the information. They can see your domain name and who it's connected to. And so he says, the reason why it was failed, because you got a UCAN notification. I said, what? He said you got a UCAN notification. What that means is that you won't be able to transfer your domain for 60 days. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, there's this organization called ICANN, and they run the internet around the world. And I'm like, what? You're telling me that here in my hometown, while I'm trying to make a transfer from one of my websites to another hosting site, some organization that's in California, nonprofit, started in 1998 when the Clintons were in power, with a Clinton guy, okay, they made it $250 million last year. They have 360 employees. And they're telling me I can't transfer my own web domain site? Who the fuck are these people? Ready? Are you ready, America, for this one? So if there's anything you've learned about me, I'm a detective. I follow down more leads than you can imagine. How do you think I find all this shit? Everything I've presented in all my shows is stuff I find by following the shit of criminals. Okay, here's an example. Okay, another victory for voting rights. Okay, a statement from Mark Elias, who's a criminal, worked with Hillary Clinton for the fraud that was committed during Trump's campaign in 2016 and the 2017 Russia hoax. Okay, this was the, as you know, if you listen to somebody like Ron DeSantis or Vivek Ramaswamy, evidently those two assholes got the phone call. Yeah, this is the boss, and yeah, I'm in Switzerland, and you need to not say anything about voter fraud. We've got the American people pretty much believing that there was no such thing as election voter fraud, and you're to remind them that there wasn't, okay? I don't care if you see any of the 12 million fucking examples of voter fraud, but you're to ignore it or you don't get anywhere in any future election. You understand? Okay, bye. Do you need a translation in Chinese? No? Okay. Thank you very much. You know, if I don't laugh at this shit, I'm going to put a bullet in my head, which of course I'm not going to do. Okay. I could put a bullet in somebody else's head, but I'm not going to do that either, because you have to understand, I'm a man of the republic. Okay? I defend the nation. I defend the republic. And God damn it, I'm going to make sure that the Republicans begin to do it, because I'm not going back to the Democratic Party. The Libertarian Party actually doesn't exist. Okay? I found out that actually they're from another planet, and they're not allowed to do anything political once they move to the earth, so they don't. They don't do a damn thing. There's so much evidence, and that's how I found a lot of the evidence for the ballot fraud. I'm going to cover some of it when we get to that later on in the show. This is going to be a 2-hour show at least. We've already done a half hour. Because there's evidence of... See, the Democrats ignore the Constitution. They ignore that it exists. Yet they take an oath of office to uphold it. But they all violate that. That means they all can go to jail. They should all be in jail. And the ones that have committed treason, they should be in the electric chairs. Oh, no, Mike. Shouldn't you say that? So... I'm starting to go berserk about this ICANN thing. So I look it up. Sure as shit. There's an organization called ICANN. And they're and this is interesting, because everything that occurs globally, America gets taken out of. Really. Okay? So here's ICANN. And their job is to run the internet all through the world and give them all the laws and everything they have to follow up. And it's funny because the 3 first guys that were helped running it and build it came from the same high school. They were born in 1943, 1943, and 1944, which I find interesting that they all came out of the same high school in California, Van Nuys High School. You know, maybe they tested as geniuses at 6 days old or something, but so these guys have been running the company for a while, and like, you know, we talked about once before about the space program. Remember when America had a space program? Remember? America had a space program until what year? That's right. That's right. The guy in this corner over here is right. Okay, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had an opportunity to move us from the shuttle system, or to enforce the shuttle system, by building a U.S. space station, which was in the plans. Okay, but being a Democrat, he has to sell out to the rest of the world, because that's the deal the Democrats made with the rest of the world. They are allowed to control America, enslave America, do whatever the F they want. And they will make sure that America is not involved globally in a leadership role. Even though we have the biggest military, if it's run by jackasses like the Biden folks, it's useless. So we covered the fact that there's 2 space stations in the world. One's Chinese and one's Russian. Why is there no American space station? Well, Mike, that's because the Russian one's really international. It's called the International. It's a bunch of bullshit. How come Russia and China have space stations and we don't? How come we no longer have a space shuttle program that Obama conveniently made go away? Because Obama felt it was more important for us to work with teaching Muslim kids in Syria math instead of putting Americans into space. And so that's why he started providing more money to foreign aid and less to NASA. So the Democrats have proven time and time again, everything they do is treasonous against the United States, and they all should fry in electric chairs. And I'm telling you that. They all should fry in electric chairs. Maybe that's why Twitter decided to can me, because I sent one of my shows through, and their Nazi recorder group probably looked it over and went,
Hey, he's a Jew with a brain. Let's get rid of him. He shouldn't be saying this shit.
So I'm pissed. I am being held up for at least 35 days, at least till the end of September. So that's almost 60 days to be able to transfer my domain. Now, what I'm told is that I can still go ahead and do everything, because as long as the pointing of the domains are to this company, then we're all set. Now, it works out that it was the Wiley info one that's being held into outer space, and the Alliance for Free States domain is in process of being transferred over. I haven't checked to see if it's been approved, but I don't think it's going to be an issue as far as I know. But the Alliance of Free States is the one that's going to have the website and the online store and all of that. The Wiley Information Network is basically a consulting company. I consult strategically on politics and business and so and so. So I'm really pissed at this. So I start looking at it as I can. Who are these people that have the authority to control my life while I'm in my house? You know, let me explain something to you. You see this flag with the 13 stars? Betsy Ross made that flag for the 13 colonies that fought the British. Now, the 13 colonies, most of which were pro-American. New York wasn't. New York still isn't. But, you know, we had enough of putting up with shit from the British. And the only way to get rid of them was to shoot them. There's 10 million Americans armed and ready to go in this country. I know there's 10 million. Everybody wants to say 100 million. 10 million's plenty. Okay, that's even more soldiers than the Chinese can send over here. And the Chinese know that if they ever invaded, those 10 million would come out behind every rock and tree and shoot these mothers till they were gone. We got to do something with the Democrats. We can no longer put up with this shit. And as long as you allow their media to control your mind, you're fucked. Okay? I don't mean to swear, but you know, we're at that stage where we need to get off our ass and do something. And that's the purpose of this show, because this is a training show. That's right. I'm going to train you people over the next 2-3 hours how to do stuff. I'm going to send it out. You guys can decide what you want to do. We are no longer doing any America's Court of Public Opinion. We're done with the legal matters to that. Investigating all those things. We've investigated them, and we've come to the conclusion that we can't do RICO. It's got to be treason and sedition. And we did a show on that, and RICO doesn't do that. Okay, you can go after people for sedition and treason, but you have to impanel a grand jury. And if they're Democrats, you sure as hell don't want to go into Washington, D.C. and impanel a grand jury, because Washington, D.C. is owned by Democrats. Now, why is 95% of Washington, D.C. Democrat? Is that by accident? Huh? So, Fadi Shahadi. Yeah. One thing you may have not noticed, but more American companies are run by people with foreign names. Now, they're all Americans because they came from another country and had to become Americans and had to become American citizens in order to be American CEOs. So, Fadi Shahadi is co-CEO of Ethos Capital and the former president and CEO of ICANN. He was on it from 2012 to 2016. That was the last 4 years of Obama the Great. In April 2016,
Please sit down.
if you have a knife in your hand, put it on the table. Do not have any weapons in your hand. If you're standing, sit down. You ready? In April 2016, actually on April 1st, Shahadi left ICANN, that's the International Criminal Association of Network Domains or whatever, to join the World Economic Forum.
Hey, I've heard of that. Isn't that them guys in Switzerland? You know, the German bankers and Nazi shit like that?
Taking a role as senior advisor to the executive chairman, Herr Klaus Schwab. Ich hatte eine von Deutschen Hochschule. I had 3 years of German in high school, so I can pronounce this guy's name real good. Klaus Schwab. Fadi's first introduction to an ICANN crowd came in June 2012 at ICANN 44 in Prague, Czech Republic, where he introduced himself in a speech during the opening ceremony. He replaced former CEO Rod Beckstrom. Okay, so the guy that was in charge of this organization, this global organization, for 4 years, now works for what people believe is the New World Order gang, the Swiss banker, Roman, whatever you want to call it, European, whatever. The people that are in charge of Europe, okay? That's Klaus Schwab. He replaced former CEO Rod Beckstrom.
Hey, Mike, who is Rod Beckstrom?
Wait, we still got some more to talk about. Before we get to Rod Beckstrom, on May 21st, 2015, ICANN announced that Shahadi would end his tenure as president and CEO in March 2016. In a press release, ICANN stated that Mr. Shahadi will be available to work closely with ICANN after March 2016 to the transition, blah, 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 blah. Okay. On August 17th, August 2015, he announced on the ICANN blog that after he steps down, he will be taking a position as a senior advisor on digital strategy for Arbery Partners, a Boston-based private equity investment firm.
Private equity, that means no one knows what you're buying?
These people specialize in investments in take a guess, okay? I'll give you several choices. Drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, cartel drugs, manufacturing, oil drilling. Now, would you tell people to invest in oil drilling when oil's being removed from the planet because the communists don't want it to be there? How about communications?
Hey, yeah, that's right. Because ICANN and the internet is communications. Global communications.
That's right, it is. See, this was always easier doing a radio show with my voices and stuff. So you just have to keep looking at me. That's all. But this allows me to stay on the air so far.
Knock on wood.
So it's an accentuation of entertainment, because I could I mean, I could really be like some of these other shit bums on TV, these news guys. These people that put these podcasts on and they spend the whole time interviewing somebody. Interviewing is horrible. That's why I never did interviews on radio. Actually, I had a show on from noon to 1 that I was offered from the radio station when they started getting people calling up to advertise on my radio show, because they never had people call up to ever want to advertise on their station until I got there. And so they came to me and they offered to pay me $10 an hour to do this one show an hour, Monday through Friday. It was an interview show, live from Church Street Station. So it was understood to be an interview show. But during my morning show, I didn't do interviews because I was busy on a one-on-one communication with the audience. That's how Rush Limbaugh saw the same thing. That's why people fell in love with Rush. They built that relationship with Rush. And that's why it hurts all of us that he's no longer around. I can't stand the fact that from noon to 3, I don't have Rush Limbaugh to listen to anymore. And when I lived in Vegas, it was 9 to 12. I miss the guy. I can just imagine what he'd be saying now if he was watching all this shit. And Mark Levin, who actually came to radio after I was removed by the Clintons in 95, Mark's going Looney Tunes. I think he's going to have a heart attack right in the middle of the show. He's just gone berserk. But he's had enough. And you just got to understand where he's coming from. I understand exactly where he's coming from. And he's got a law background. My goodness, some of the shit I come up with would be a lot better for him to do than me, but he's not there yet. He does have a legal foundation. Maybe I should try to get a hold of them and see if I can get them to do some of this stuff, because I'm still looking for a legal person who's sharp and can get up there and tear the shit out of these people. So I'm looking up Arbery Partners, and they tell people what money to buy, and all the equities are all communication companies. Satellite, cable, internet, blah, 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 blah. They're into communication.
It's a global business. And it's control.
If you can control what people hear and see, you're part of the empire. Yeah. Making sense to you now? Wait till I get to this other asshole. So in a news release, January 22, 2016, the World Economic Forum announced that he was coming to work for Klaus Schwab, the executive chairman. And he's going to be advising the Global Challenge Initiative on the future of the internet.
Ooh, yeah.
So this is a guy who I guess is an American, but he's from another country. Like Obama. Obama's an American, but he's from another country. The only problem is he's not supposed to have been able to run for president because he's from another country. And you have to be careful, because you could have someone from another country that is easy to turn into a traitor for China. So Fahadi gets selected to replace Rod Beckstrom. The topic of CEO succession planning was disclosed on a meeting on September 17th, 2011. Okay. I could name you other people in ICANN, like Akram Atala, Tarek Kamal, and Sally Costerton. She's a new hire, was recently CEO of Hill & Knowlton Public Relations for Europe, the Middle East, and Asia.
Really?
These other people were from Europe. It's global, baby. It's global. To hell with America, the News World Order. Anyways, where we were is the AR-15 stops COVID-19 Great Reset. Evidently, it's not just the Democrats that want to get rid of Trump. It's not just the Democrats that want to get rid of Trump. Okay? It's the globe that wants to get rid of Trump. You know, when I was looking at these Arbery partners, you know, they all had similar backgrounds. A lot of them were white males and had been to Wharton Business School or Harvard, or, you know, they're the cream of the crop. And they're working on people being able to buy and invest in communications. Because if you think about it, the earth is round. And in order to control the earth, if you don't have spaceships or Chinese space balloons floating around, then you have to do it with satellites, and you have to do it with communication, and you need to control the communication on the ground. So we as Americans are going to have an issue. And the issue is that we don't have an American communication system. Maybe we think so, but I think it's time that Mr. Elon Musk gets into the game. You know, sell Twitter. Twitter ain't shit. I don't care what anybody says. Twitter ain't shit. If it can easily take people because it doesn't like them and throw them away, we need to throw them away. Elon needs to have his own deal, and maybe he's going to work something out with Tucker where they put something together as a communication center for news, entertainment, the whole ball of wax, where Americans can go to get all the information they want, and they're free to do it, and they're free to listen to it, and the people speaking are free. We need that. And we don't really need the rest of the world. We don't really give a shit about the rest of the world, even though we should, because a lot of our money is stolen from us by the Democrats in a quid pro quo. You know, Biden crime family really showed us how it's done.
Oh, we give them money, then they give back some money to me. And everything's fine.
But, you know, we got to hide everything that Biden's done, so that's why they're going after Trump. So if I recollect where I was going with this great reset, is that Bobby Kennedy Jr., Robert Kennedy Jr., was on Hannity in a town hall in New York, and Hannity was asking him some questions, and Robert Kennedy said this, and I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm going to believe him. He says that federal law states that in order to come out with any kind of vaccine and vaccine program that you're going to want to institute around the country, you have to make sure that there aren't any pharmaceuticals in existence that people could buy off the shelf or get prescribed that would do the same thing. In other words, let's say there was hydrochloroquine, or I can't remember the other one. I always keep forgetting the one with that begins with an L. But those two pills, everyone knew were the cure for COVID-19. Everyone knew they were the cure for COVID-19. And everyone knew that they couldn't come out with these vaccines legally unless those two were not allowed to be given out to the people. So 1 million Americans had to die for the Great Reset, for Klaus Schwab. Okay. I guess 6 million Jews wasn't enough, was it, Klaus? So we took this crap on the chin. So a million Americans died so that we could have these programs to commit election fraud. Now you got to remember, there was several things. Let me just look through this pile here. So part of the election fraud was to kill off 1 million Americans so the rest of Americans would go,
Hey, I can't vote. I need to send in a ballot.
okay. So one of the biggest crimes in American history, besides the Great Depression, which I'm going to show you, and of course the Watergate thing. Hey, found some shit on that. We're going to discuss that too. That's why they commit crimes all the time, the Democrats. It's ongoing. It's ongoing. So the ballot fraud was just one in a series of crimes against humanity, against the United States that the Democrats have committed because they're at war with us. Okay, of course they hate us. Mark Levin's book points out that. He probably points out a lot of stuff I'm already pointing out. But let me give you some. Okay, so see the flag with the 13 stars. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the Republic, the United States of America, and to the Republic for which it stands, to the Republic for which it stands. A republic is a nation of laws. For some reason, the Democrats do not acknowledge the Constitution of being law. Okay, and I have the Constitution back up there, but I believe it's in Article 1, Section, I don't know if it's 10 or Article 1, Section 10, Line 4, but it talks about the elections and that it's the state houses of each state. They're in charge of changes to the election laws. If there's going to be a change to an election law that has to deal with a federal election, that means with the president, they have to pass it. Now, the Republican legislatures in the states of Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Interesting, 4 states that had Republican legislatures. Now, what does that normally mean? It normally means that that state is a red state with blue cities like Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. And those 4 cities in those states, okay, have large populations of blacks. And the reason is because the Democrats, in their wisdom and power of going from a slave state to a plantationary slave state that no one would recognize, they had to put blacks in an area they could control them. And this is where the assassination of Kennedy came about, and one of the reasons for it. The other reason was Vietnam. Kennedy was not going to commit troops, and Johnson wanted a war in Vietnam for his own benefit. And it's amazing to think what men went through in that war, and all for Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Party. So we see these things. Michigan inches toward changes on absentee ballot counting, but stalls on other election changes. This is from CNN. Okay, these communist, Marxist communication outlets are trying to tell you that we're going to change things, but it's not an easy thing to do because we got to do this and we got to do that. But they never mention the fact that they can't be done unless the state legislatures do it, because they don't want people to know about the Constitution. That's why they don't teach the Constitution in schools. They teach gender situations. Governor Wolf signs historic election reform bill, including new mail-in voting. Governor Wolf made voting more convenient and illegal and secure by signing Act 77 of 2019.
Wow, he did it the year before the election, huh? Wow, he did it.
He did it before COVID even existed. Now, hold on a second, folks. How did all these asshole Democrats in Michigan, Detroit, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Georgia, how did they all know that they needed to do this before there was COVID? Did they know COVID was coming? Did the Democrats know that COVID was coming? Did the Democrats kill, murder 1 million Americans for COVID so they could steal an election? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. That's why it's treason, it's sedition, and they all need to be strapped into electric chairs. And until that day comes, we will be slaves to them. We will be the new slaves that they've always wished for. They want black slaves, they want Chinese slaves, they want Latino slaves, they want white male slaves. Yeah. That's the Democratic Party for you. And you Republicans, and I'm talking to you Republicans, because this video is going to be sent out to every Republican. Now, I know all about direct mail and shit like that, and I know how to take something and send it out to people, and that's what I do. Okay, it takes time to produce these, but I enjoy doing them. But I am getting a little, excited about it, and I'm supposed to calm down. My blood pressure's up a little. I was at the cardiologist the other day, and he said, "Hey, cut this shit out." But I enjoy it because it was like my radio show. I would entertain and inform at the same time. Matter of fact, somebody stole that concept from me, right, Glenn Beck?
Yeah, Glenn, I had it before you.
So, the law creates a new option to vote by mail up to 50 days before the election and be placed on a list to permanently receive a ballot application by mail. It also provides more time to register to vote and authorizes a $90 million bond to help counties fund the purchase of new voting systems with a paper trail that strengthens the security of our elections. Not unless they're Dominion machines, you asshole. The bill makes voting more convenient and more secure for millions of Pennsylvanians and continues my commitment to modernizing our elections. Bullshit. It's all bullshit. And it's all illegal. No excuse mail-in voting now, 50-day mail-in voting period, permanent mail-in and absentee ballot list. Now before, the only absentee ballots allowed were those that people were going to be leaving the country during the election period. They wanted to get their votes in, so they'd ask for a mail-in ballot. And then anyone that was in the military overseas had their ballots. I believe most of their ballots were stolen in 2020 because usually the military votes 80-20 Republican. But I think in 2020 it was more like 50-50. So you remember the Democrats knew that a landslide was coming. They knew a landslide was coming. And they knew a landslide was coming in 1972. And they knew there was nothing they were going to be able to do about it unless they were able to figure out a way to get rid of the president that was going to win an election.
Hey, Mike, you mean what they're doing to Trump? They did to Nixon?
Yeah, they've done this shit before. Okay, and we're gonna cover that today. We're getting to it. I'm covering everything today. This is gonna be a 3-hour show, and you can watch it in segments if you want to. So the Democrats create this thing for voter mail-in, and 4 states, the battleground states, and they did it before COVID came out. How did they know COVID was coming? That's amazing. That's like scientifically amazing. Or we're not talking about that. Mark Zuckerberg funded ballot drop boxes only in blue states. Why is that? What's the purpose for a ballot drop box? Well, that's so dead people don't have to go to the polls to give their ballots. They can drop them off at a drop box. So, and what they can do is they can have somebody pick up all the dead people's ballots and have them sent in by dropping them off. And you may have seen this thing called 2,000 Mules.
Oh, that's what that was. Yeah.
Yeah, the same technology the FBI used to arrest people that didn't commit any crimes on January 6th. It's the same technology they could use. Hey, Mike, do you have some more evidence of stuff? Michigan inches towards Chow. See, they wanted to make it seem like it wasn't going to happen, but it was going to happen. And the Mark Elias deal was a fake lawsuits by a Democratic nonprofit for another Democratic nonprofit run by Perkins Coie, the law firm that controls the Democratic Party. I found this. And I found this accidentally. I wasn't looking for this. What I was actually looking for was I was trying to figure out if there possibly could have been 2 Republicans elected to the House of Representatives from the communist state of Massachusetts. So I'm looking at this Commonwealth of Massachusetts enrollment breakdown as of 10/24/2020. Yeah. 2 weeks before the election, there was 4.8 million registered voters in the state of Massachusetts. 4.8 million. 1.5 million of them were Democrats, or 32% were Democrats. Republicans only had 460,000. That's why they don't really exist as a political party. And I was part of that political party when I lived in Massachusetts when I was on radio in Boston. They are only 10% of the population, but the unenrolled are 2.7 million people. 57% of the voting bloc is unenrolled. That means there's no political designation whether Democrat or Republican. And because of that, there's no political party that goes over these 2.7 million votes and makes sure that people are being acknowledged to go in and vote, because they can't pay too much attention because they're not enrolled. They're registered voters, but they're independents. So I'm seeing this and I go, oh, okay, very good. And then one day, coincidentally, where is it here?
Hold on, I'm getting it.
Come on, where are you? See, this is the only thing I can't stand, when this paperwork disappears. I mean, I don't really need it because I already wrote down what had happened. So then what happens is I come across this, if you know anything about direct mail, and I do because I was at Xerox for 5 years in direct mail back in the late 70s, early 80s. And I understood direct mail, how it worked and everything like that. And the key to direct mail is the list. The list. What list are you mailing to? Okay. The idea is to get a 3% response. 3% response is great for direct mail. If I send out 1 million, then I'm going to get a 3% response, and that's going to be 30,000 people, and that's a good response, 30,000 people. That's what we're looking for. So it's the list that matters. So I happen to type in list, and I get this Amerilist, and it's a company that manages political lists. And I thought, gee, don't I remember reading about the fact that 2 Democrat nonprofits, Get Out the Vote and Scumbag Vote, I don't know what the other one is, but they were working on getting the states to update their voter rolls and to fix their voter rolls. And matter of fact, I had this other thing, which of course I can't find right now. That's because there's so much documentation. Thank God I remember it all. Of course, in 10 years, I won't even remember my name. But you won't care then. You'll either be slaves or you'll be free, one of the two. So I come across this Amerilist, and it says, hey, you can get any list you want to. We have all the updated lists updated after the election. So it's got all the states. So I click on Massachusetts because I have Massachusetts's. See, Massachusetts, the state of Massachusetts figured no one was going to check their records. But Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, they knew someone would be checking their records, so they kind of hide shit. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, they don't have to hide anything because nobody's looking at them except Mikey. So now there's 5.180520 million voters, registered voters. Okay, so that went up, let's see, 51, that went up close to 369,611 more registered voters. 369,611 more registered voters than 2 weeks before the election. So somehow, 369,000 more people registered to vote within 2 weeks. Okay. Then I'm reading on, and it says that the Democrats, out of this 5 million registered Democrats, was 45%. And I'm saying 45%. They were 32% before the election. How could they be 45% after the election? Well, 45% increase to versus 32%, that's a 13% increase. That means that out of the 369,611 more voters, there were 796,685 more Democrat voters. What the hell math is that? How many times does 796,685 come out as 369,611? 427,074 more Democrats are now registered than they were before the election. Where did these people come from? The answer is the unenrolled. Those 2.7 million, the Democrats, you read it, you'll see the Democrat organizations of Get Out the Vote and them, they were working with all the state legislatures, and not the state legislatures, they were working with the county polls, Detroit, Atlanta, to get all the registered voters they can to send out these fake mail-in ballots. They're fake because the name on them was not the person that was either alive, or they were dead, or they moved, or they should have been canceled. Matter of fact, I have a document here. I'm not going to go searching for it. I'm just going to tell you that it was showing in Michigan that by 2022, 3, there was 110,000 registered voters that had to come off the list because they no longer exist. See, what the states do is the states leave these people on the list so the Democrats can steal the votes. And then they get rid of them because they have to get rid of them at some time. But they need a couple years to do it. And then there's 400,000 names that are going to come off in 2025. Oh, that's 500,000. That's 500,000. That's 500,000 illegal voters in the state of Michigan that the Democrats can use to steal in 2024. You see, the election in 2024 is already stolen. Okay? It's already stolen. But the Democrats have to make sure they've got all their bases covered. That was the reason why they had to make sure no shit came out about Biden and Hunter and all the crimes they committed, even though the FBI had that shit in 2019. But they held it. They interfered with the election. Election interference is treason. Election interference is treason. It's a form of sedition. And after what we've gone through for 2-3 years, it's a crime against humanity for what the Democrats have done to us. And we're getting into that. It's already, what did I do? Started at 11:30. We had 20 minutes. All right, so I'm at least an hour and 20 minutes into this. So there's election fraud for you. Okay? Vivek. Huh, Vivek? You're looking for some election fraud? Here's some election fraud for you, Vivek. And for you, Governor DeSantis. Here, one more thing of election fraud. So we told you about Zuckerberg and his ballot boxes in the let's see. Was used to turn out the vote and select Democrat blue counties. Well, they were saying, well, the election wasn't likely stolen, it was bought. Same thing. Same thing. U.S. TV networks prepared to deliver results of an unprecedented election. What's this mean? It's a press release from Helen Koster of Reuters. And basically what they're saying is that the U.S. television networks are preparing for an election night like no other. As a divided nation. As a divided nation. As a divided nation. If we're a divided nation, then they need to get the F out of our country. Send them back to Seattle. Send them back to Portland. Send them back to San Francisco. Send them back to Chicago. Send them to New York City. Send them back to Detroit. Send them back to Atlanta. Get them the hell out of our country. Of course, Atlanta is right in the middle of Georgia. It's not on the border of, like, say, Canada or the ocean. In this year's contest between Republican U.S. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, the Democrat, TV networks are facing heightened pressure to report election results accurately and without warranted speculation.
Yeah, that's why they're going to stop the counting at 11 o'clock at night.
What? Where does it say that? How do you know they're going to stop the counting at 11 o'clock at night?
It's easy, Mike. They need time to figure out how many stolen and fraudulent vote ballots they need to pump in.
You mean like that van at 3 o'clock in the morning in Detroit that drove in with 170,000 votes? 150 for Biden and 20 for Trump? Ladies and gentlemen, the election was stolen in more ways than you can imagine. And any Republican, like Pence and all of them, the reason why they say there was no election fraud is because they're told to shut the hell up. You vote for someone that doesn't believe in the election fraud, you're a waste too. You're a waste too. Okay? So, let's just do a little cleaning up here. Okay, this is all Obama China shit. We're not covering. All right, so I was starting out with talking to you about. Hold on, I got a couple more voter fraud shit. Okay, I'm sorry, but there was so much in voter fraud that only an idiot or a rhino Republican getting Chinese money to forgot. By the way, this is my opinion, but Vivek is a fraud. Look into him, okay?
Oh, he makes such nice speeches, Mike. He's really good.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. I could beat the shit out of anybody with a 5-minute speech. I used to do my 5-minute speeches in 4 minutes and 58 seconds. Because when you ran for U.S. Senate, you had 5 minutes to speak. People running for Congress got 2 minutes. All right, a couple of things. Georgia grand jury looms in Trump inquiry. Okay, of course, they've hired a black female Democrat. You know, those are the ones that like to get the extra money. And it sounds like she's also, if I recollect, wasn't she one of the people we saw on TV committing election fraud? That everyone, I didn't see it. Her inquiry is seen by legal experts as potentially perilous for the former president. Okay. Once again, Donald Trump makes a phone call. He's guilty of making a phone call. Given the myriad interactions he and his allies had with Georgia officials. Now, what the F does that mean? Given the myriad interactions he and his allies had with Georgia officials, most notably Trump's January call to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, urging him to find 11,780 votes. Okay, then of course that would have been enough to reverse the state's election result. Hey, Brad, can you find me 11,780 fake fraud votes? Huh? Can you dig up some fake ballots? Maybe the Democrats have some spare ones they didn't use. No, he didn't ask him that. He asked them to find 11,780 votes. Well, then if he's looking for a vote, it would have to be a legal vote. And legal votes are okay to have, especially when they're tucked away in places that people are hiding.
Really?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I have an article here. Where are you? Where are you? Come on. Okay, there's a little story here. Here's a picture of the van. Picture of the van in 3:30 in the morning in Detroit, coming away with a 1.5 million votes for 150,000 votes for Biden so he could win the election. Okay. FBI confirms there was no insurrection on January 6th. What? Then why are still they calling about interference? And Russian interference in 2020 included influencing Trump associates. Okay, this is a perfect example. Perfect example. Okay. Now, if this asshole, Julian Barnes, was in your living room and you had a Glock 9mm pointed to his head, do you think he would have given this report if you instructed him to tell the truth? President Vladimir Putin of Russia authorized extensive efforts to hurt the candidacy of Joseph R. Biden Jr. I'm sorry. I have the box right here. This is the box. This is the box that has President Vladimir Putin of Russia authorized extensive efforts to hurt the candidacy of Joseph R. Biden during the election last year, including mounting covert operations to influence people close to President Donald Trump, according to a declassified intelligence report released on Tuesday. These are all the documents that support this bullshit. But what's the next line, Mike? You notice it's not the first line, because the hope is, by the way, do you know that when people start reading a paragraph, they don't go all the way down? That's why most of the truth is on the second page or on the bottom of the fold, because they know you're not going to read it all. So that's why they put the cream of bullshit, and it's not a soup, a cream of bullshit, on the top.
The report did not name those people.
The report did not name those people, but seemed to refer to the work of Mr. Trump's former personal lawyer, Rudolph Giuliani, who relentlessly pushed accusations of corruption about Mr. Biden and his family involving Ukraine. No! Holy shit, Rudy. Come on, Rudy. Rudy, why are you relentlessly pushing accusations of corruption about Mr. Biden and his family involving Ukraine when they were totally true? And the Congress of the United States 2 years, 3 years later is looking into it.
Well, you see, in 2021, Democrats were in charge of Congress, so that means no investigations of criminal Democrat activity.
Matter of fact, you'll notice that every time Democrats are in control of Congress, what happens? Every time Democrats are in control of Congress, what happens? A, they spend trillions of our money, and we're going to cover that. We're going to cover that. And they commit all these crimes. And nothing gets investigated. Nothing gets investigated. Why is the game so against Americans and Republicans and independents and libertarians and pro-American Democrats? Why is that? Huh? Why is that? We don't need to discuss that. Okay. Another victory for voting rights. This is the Mark Elias bullshit. In October, we sued Michigan on behalf of Priorities USA to block their unconstitutional signature matching process.
Yeah? What was unconstitutional about it?
Huh? Huh, Mark? You can go find my show where I actually make believe I have Mark Elias on the stand. And I ask Mark Elias one question. Mr. Elias, I see here that you filed lawsuits for Priorities USA. In October, you sued Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So they are Secretary of States who were recently elected Democrats, just like the governors and the attorney generals are all recently elected. Let me explain something to you. These scumbags called Democrats were way ahead of us. They knew. Okay, what did Democrats know? What did Democrats know in 2018? What did Democrats know? Well, they knew that Donald Trump was kicking ass, that America was doing well under Donald Trump, that black Americans were doing real well under Trump, and that's no good. You can't have black people running around being wealthy and owning cars and owning businesses. You can't have that shit. No. That's why you had a Great Depression. We're getting to that. Calm down. I've already talked about it before, but I'm putting it into this instruction video because I want you all to not believe everything I said. Don't believe anything I said. Check it all out. Check out every damn thing I say. Okay? I challenge you to do that. So, the Democrats knew that Trump was going to run for re-election and he was going to win. And the Democrats really had nobody to run against him. But Obama wanted Biden to run because they could fix the election. He already bought the COVID-19 virus in 2015 with money to Wuhan Labs. So he knew that was coming. And I guess the other Democrats knew it was coming because that's why they went for all this mail-in ballot shit before it was even announced. So let me I'm sorry to jump around here, but this is going to come out soon, this grand jury. They're saving this bullshit. Okay, so they were urging him to find 11,780 votes. I would put this piece of garbage on the stand and ask her, "Oh, I'm sorry. I know you're the prosecutor in Fulton County, but we're putting you on the stand because you're a witness. You're a witness to your own crime. Okay, you impaneled a special grand jury for your investigation, and you had that whack job on TV spewing about it, which should have thrown everything out of court. But can you find 11,000? By the way, do you happen to have a transcript of that phone call? So when Trump asked him to find 11,780 votes, what kind of votes was he looking for? Fake ones? Fraud ones? Ones that were mailed out to dead people but returned by registered Democrats that had passed away or something or whatever? Did he ask for those? The Georgia case is one of two active criminal investigations known to touch on the former president and his circle. The other is the examination of his financial dealings by the Manhattan District Attorney. That's the other black lesbian female attorney general in New York saying that Trump evidently had misappropriated or missed something of his business records.
Hey, I got a question. How many CEOs do paperwork?
Right? Hey, out of all these boxes that are in Mar-a-Lago, how many was Trump dealing with? None? Would you think he would have somebody go through the paperwork and tell him what they have and what was found? Trump was the CEO, right? CEO. So if you ever recall a video, they're doing an interview with Trump, and they're looking at his desk, and he has this desk, and he's got a pile of papers this thick. Now, I'm trying to remember if they were contracts or business offerings, something that he had to look through and then sign them if he agreed. Because any other paperwork, of course, it gets to his desk for a reason. Why does it get to his desk for a reason? Oh, yeah, he's CEO. And see, Democrats don't understand business except the ones on Wall Street that dump the market when they're told to. So CEOs evidently do all their own paperwork, do all their own filing, do all their own shit, right? Or they have somebody else do it. So when you're claiming in New York that Trump mishandled business documents, why aren't you suing his CPA firm? And why are you going after him for tax issues if the IRS hasn't? Hey, bitch, why do you think you know tax law? Do you have a degree in tax law? Did you work for the IRS? If the IRS is not going after him for tax situations, why are you?
Well, I was instructive too, because I do what I'm told or they kill me.
All this shit is bullshit. It's all bullshit. When Trump gets up on TV and says it's all bullshit, he's telling the truth. Okay? These people These people are playing on the ignorance of the average American who's never been a CEO, never been a corporate officer, never been in big business. They don't understand what Trump does. They don't understand what a president does. And neither do the Democrats. The Democrats only know about crimes. And so here's more election fraud stuff. Oh, so I was saying, we did a show, you can look it up on Rumble, where I have Mark Elias on the stand, and I go, Mark Elias, I have one question for you, okay? Mr. Elias, it states here that you filed a lawsuit against the, let me see, where does it say? It says here, as a result of our lawsuit, the Michigan Secretary of State recently revised her guidance to adopt the revised her guidance. I'd look it up now, but look up the word guidance and see if it says anything about manner.
Manner. Because that's what the Constitution says.
The state legislators are in charge of the manner in which the elections are done.
Or guidance.
Not the Michigan Secretary of State, not the governor of Pennsylvania, not any of these Democrats that came into power in 2018. Oh, that's what I was getting at. The 2018 election was fraudulent as well. Nobody was paying attention to it, but the Democrats were, because the Democrats were able to take and put Democrats in power in those battleground states. What a coincidence. Secretary of State, Attorney General, and governor. Because they were planning to steal those states from the start, before the COVID thing. Which means somebody, and I'm going to guess it was Barack Obama, had a meeting and told everybody what they were doing. This is what we're going to do. So I've got Mark Elias on the stand, and I said, Mr. Elias, it says here that you filed a lawsuit against the Michigan Secretary of State. Okay. And you requested directive from Secretary instructing clerks to provide notice of signature mismatch determinations within 24 hours of such determination by phone, text, or mail. You requested directive from Secretary implementing a cure procedure for absentee ballots and ballot applications, request directive implementing safeguards, and requested formal signature matching training. Okay. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Elias. Why didn't you sue the Michigan State Legislature, since they're the ones responsible for the manner in which federal elections are held per the Constitution? You know the Constitution? The laws of the land that everyone but Democrats follow? A bunch of pieces of shit these people were. Oh, look. What's it say, Mike? Please read it to us. Okay, well. The latest government report, 15 million mail ballots in 2020. 2020? That are unaccounted for. What? We have real data from a federal agency, no less, that proves that 2020 election was a mess. Based on data from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, an analysis by the Public Interest Legal Foundation shows almost 15 million mail ballots effectively disappeared after election officials gave them to the U.S. Postal Service to deliver to voters. Are you trying to say that the Teamsters were involved in the election fraud? You know, the Teamsters, they're the guys that drive the trucks. My dad was a Teamster. He never worked for the post office, but the post office got the government unionized. See, remember, government unions are different than private unions. Government unions are direct relationships to Democrats and government power. That's why they need to spend all our money for government and for everything they do through government. Okay, that's just some more. There's so much evidence of election fraud that you can't find it, can you, Vivek? I think that Governor DeSantis knows there was election fraud, but he's not saying it. All right, some more. This is some more Democrat dog shit. A couple of little other things. This is This was filed on November 20th, 2020. So the election was November 3rd, and within 2 weeks, this lawsuit was filed. Where? Where would Democrats file a lawsuit? If you had a choice of anywhere in the world, you're going to file a lawsuit against Donald Trump. Where would you file it? Well, Mike, you'd file it in the District Court of District of Columbia, where 95% of the people are Democrats. Black voters in the Detroit area have accused the Trump campaign of attempting to disenfranchise them. They came up with the names of 4 black people. Now, why did this come out? Why did this election lawsuit come out within 2 weeks? Because sometimes the people who commit crimes are pretty stupid. And Bernie Thompson's not stupid, because Bernie Thompson knows how to get reelected 13 times in his district, which has the largest percentage of poor people in the frickin' nation, in his county, his district 2 in Alabama. Or is it Mississippi? Let me guess. Let me just check and see. I don't remember what state it was. I believe it was Mississippi, but let me just check to make sure. Just check to make sure. Okay. Anyways, of course, it was filed in Washington, D.C., where if it goes in front of a jury, the majority of that jury is going to be black and Democrat. And you know, Democrats say, you know, they figured out a new method of slavery for blacks. And every time that theory and that method gets challenged by making them more available to be wealthy on their own and have independence and opportunity. This is why a lot of black males have left the Democratic Party, because thanks to Trump, they were able to get money and make money on their own. They were able to make something of themselves because they finally had the opportunity to do so in an open entrepreneurial atmosphere. You know, we white people take that for granted sometimes because there's never been that issue with us. But it's been that way for a while for blacks. And now they have the opportunity. Black females, who knows what they do. They all go into law. They all get passed for grades somehow. They get into law school. And then the Democrats hire them to pull shit like this. So Benny Thompson, yeah, I believe he is a Mississippi, second district. Benny Thompson files this lawsuit, and he's claiming that it's Michigan Welfare Rights Organization et al. Versus Donald Trump, okay? Because they say he's attempting to disenfranchise them because of election fraud committed in Detroit. Everyone knows election fraud was committed in Detroit. We watched it on television. You remember when the Democrats wouldn't let the Republicans back in to view the polls like they're supposed to? And they kept boarding up the windows so they couldn't see what they were doing. What were the Democrats hiding? Were the Democrats hiding election fraud? Huh? Did we not see videos in Fulton County, Georgia, where 5 people, after everyone was told to leave and go home because of a flood in the toilet? And I don't know how people drowned from a toilet flood, but they didn't leave. They still had firemen. They should have videos of them putting through the... Matter of fact, we're going to show you that. Part of today's show is going to have this video of the election fraud to solidify this. Okay. So then Benny Thompson filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Proud Boys, and the Oath Keepers for violating the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Now this is amazing. This is the height of hypocrisy in this country. A black Democrat is filing a lawsuit against a white president who did more for black people than the black president Barack Obama did. And he's going after them on an act that was created for Ulysses S. Grant, a Republican president who wanted to go after the Ku Klux Klan because the Ku Klux Klan were killing black people and preventing them from being able to make something of themselves through Reconstruction. Okay, now, Reconstruction would have gone real well, except for the fact that the Democrats had Abraham Lincoln assassinated 5 days after General Lee pulled his military off the field. Then the Democrats sent in the actors, and the actor killed Lincoln. And then the Democrat vice president, because they did that to try to unite the country. Republican president, but have a Democrat as vice president. And the first thing he did was he tried to screw everything up with the Reconstruction and hold that up. Well, they were doing it again, and so President Grant sent out troops to go clean up the Ku Klux Klan. And they came up with the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. And Benny Thompson saying, hey, a white Republican president who got this act going, we're applying it against a white Republican president. How fucking stupid is that? What gall do these people have? The gall is, and here's the fact of everything. They know nothing's going to happen to them. They know nothing's going to happen to them because they control the deep state. They control all the major cities, and they control their entry into the global atmosphere of the earth and the economic forum and all this other global horse shit. Nothing's going to happen to Democrats except there's two ways to get rid of the Democrats. A, you remove them by force, military force, in this case, state militias, which the Constitution provides for. And you ship them back. You don't shoot them. We don't kill them. We ship them back to Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and we say, you stay there, and you start your own government, and you can open up, call it San Francisco, D.C., San Francisco District of Crime, or whatever you want to call it, but you're getting the hell out of Washington, and you're taking all your Democrats with you and put them in those cities, because we're going to clean up Washington, D.C., and make it the center of the capital of this nation, and we're going to remove the Democrats from the government and from the Congress, and they've all violated their oath of office every single time they're elected. They've committed more crimes than anyone's ever accounted for but me. And the only way America's going to be free is to either A, shoot them, which we don't want to do. And there's a reason why we don't want to shoot them. And the reason is that we know that if we tell all the Democrats to get the fuck out of our country and they go have their country, go into New England, the 6 states of New England, the non-Republican sector, New York City of New York, we'll let them take all of New Jersey. We don't give a shit about New Jersey. Matter of fact, we're going to move Philadelphia into New Jersey so we can get rid of that problem. And we say, look, go have your own country. Do what you want to do with your country. You want to spend trillions of dollars on a fake Green New Deal? Go ahead. Climate change? Go ahead. Do whatever the hell you want with your money, not ours. Not ours. Biden spent $1.6 trillion on a bullshit COVID deal because it was already money for COVID, but he wanted to get more. He wanted to get more, and that's what we're getting to right now. Okay, so we're done with the election fraud. Everybody knows what they can do. You want to keep reading up, I'm going to show you the video. It's going to be on here.
People have been on, they've been saying, show me the evidence. I'll believe it when I see the evidence. And people on both sides agree that something went terribly wrong in November 2020, but there really has been no comprehensive place to see the evidence of widespread fraud until now. This video is pure data, so don't get mad. You can't be angry when a scientist confirms that gravity pulls downward at negative 9.8 meters per second squared, even when that fact works against the narrative you've heard. So here we go. Just before we show you some new disturbing video evidence, we'll talk about statistical anomalies in 3 states in question. In the early hours of November 4th, 2020, Democratic candidate Joe Biden received several major vote spikes in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia, suddenly placing him in the lead when he had been trailing Trump by a significant margin. 8,954 individual vote updates were analyzed. Across nearly all updates, there follows a clear statistical pattern. However, a very small number of batches are especially questionable. The 4 most notable aberrations were 2 in Michigan, 1 in Wisconsin, and 1 in Georgia. And all occurred in the same 5-hour window, in the middle of the night, when in some places counting reportedly had stopped. Not only do these updates not follow generally observed patterns, but their behavior is particularly extreme. For context, using publicly available data from the New York Times, here is a visualization of the number of votes by candidate in Michigan from the beginning of the election night to 7 p.m. Eastern Time on November 4th. Trump is in red, Biden is in blue. Notice the sudden and improbable spike in votes for Biden at 6:30 a.m., where Biden received 141,258 votes, while Trump only received 5,968. This extreme ratio is surrounded by updates that are nearly the same in ratio. This particular update is 23 times more votes for Biden and is the most extreme update favoring Biden in all datasets across all states. The situation in Wisconsin is even more stark. A single update to the vote count brought Biden from trailing by over 100,000 votes into the lead. Thirdly, a vote update in Georgia at 1:34 a.m. Eastern Time on November 4th, which shows 136,155 votes for Joe Biden and only 29,115 for Donald Trump. The extents of these 4 vote spikes in question are more than the margin of victory in all 3 states, which means the spikes were not only abnormal in regards to percentage for Joe Biden, but also in magnitude of the vote count. Out of roughly 9,000 updates, this election was decided by only 4 extreme updates, each with a probability of less than 0.1%, meaning that had these 4 unlikely updates not happened, we would have a different president in the White House. Detractors argue that these spikes were merely human error and not indication of fraud, and the errors have been corrected. If the errors have been corrected, where is their evidence? Why were the results never changed? Others have said that the spikes indicate heavily Democratic precincts. If that were the case, then California would show many spikes of that magnitude, but it doesn't. Only 1 vote update in California is anomalous in percentage of Biden votes, but not enough magnitude to shift an outcome. The strangest anomaly visible in the data is a consistently identical ratio of Biden to Trump votes across time, which is theoretically impossible. Here is Florida. These updates occurred over a week following the election. Notice all the ratios of Biden to Trump votes are 100% identical over several days. This pattern shows up in many states. It appears that a computer algorithm is involved in the process, which is doing something called weighted race distribution, a feature of Diebold voting machines known as early as 2001, which gives values to votes rather than simply counting them. Here in California, we see an update of 1 vote. About 65% of that value is given to Biden and 32% to Trump. How can 1 vote go to more than 1 person? It is well known and not disputed that Diebold software was found to be switching votes through programming in past elections. Even though Diebold is no longer used, Dominion Voting Systems acquired ES&S in 2010, which had previously acquired Diebold under its new name of Premier Election Solutions. This does not exhaust all statistical data anomalies encountered in the 2020 election, but data anomalies is only one factor to consider. Next is eyewitness and video evidence. In Georgia, there's a case of a poll worker named Ruby who was seen on Instagram giving a secretive live video of her working in the back room filled with absentee ballots.
I'm gonna let y'all see this. Okay, don't say nothing. Listen, look.
At 10:30 p.m. on November 3rd, all media and poll watchers were told to leave State Farm Arena because ballot counting was going to stop. But Ruby and her daughter and 3 others remained behind at State Farm Arena. They pulled boxes of ballots out from under the table that was placed there in the morning and distributed them to several counting stations.
back to Fulton County, Georgia right now, where our reporter Blaine Alexander apparently has some new reporting on the expectations for that count.
Well, Rachel, we've learned that the counting continues tonight. You know, right here in State Farm Arena behind me, we've learned that there are 5 people who are still inside, still working to scan those absentee ballots and try and get those numbers tabulated. Now, initially, we were told that everybody went home at about 10:30, but I just got off the phone with the county spokesperson who tells me that indeed there are still some people in there, quite literally burning the midnight oil, scanning ballot after ballot and trying to get that information in.
And Blaine, specifically, you said 5 people are inside that building? That's 5 of 5 actual individuals who are working on all the absentees in Fulton County right now? Just 5? Wow. Talk about having the sort of fate of the nation in your hands.
Ruby is seen here in this video running the exact same stack of ballots through the machine 3 times. Other workers do the same. Note that a large surge in Biden votes can be observed after this tabulation at 0634 Greenwich Mean Time, which is 1:34 a.m. in Georgia, just after the time in question. You may ask, can a ballot really be counted more than once? Here is your answer from Coffee County, Georgia.
Can you scan a ballot more than once?
I've just done it.
I'm talking about
That's
you
the
just,
same batch that she's been doing.
you just keep scanning them.
I just kept scanning that same.
You just keep some.
I just scanned the same batches that y'all just voted. I never got any more until that
I
one.
don't know why they approve such a system.
Ruby allegedly posted this later on social media. Of course, the mainstream media calls this misinformation, and most references to these videos have been deleted from internet search results. Apple News, the morning of the election, sent out a push message to Apple News subscribers that elections are secure. So if it's true that election fraud is rare, what about Raquel Rodriguez? She was recently arrested for election fraud in Texas because of overwhelming video evidence incriminating herself that she was harvesting ballots for pay.
The top ticket to get votes for either Biden. How many votes do you think you can deliver for us?
At least 5,000.
And what are we looking at as far as how much that's going to cost?
For the entire team that I'm looking at 55,000.
So $55,000 for 5,000 votes, top the ticket, either Biden.
If not more, I'm not going to overpromise because remember, we're 16 days till election day. You give me cash, you can do whatever you want to do.
$55,000 up front, 5,000 votes.
That's right.
Then there is cybersecurity evidence and the question of whether Dominion voting machines were tampered with over internet connections. Signed affidavits under oath from cybersecurity experts indicate that Dominion voter systems and Edison Research were using an unencrypted VPN with login credentials that were easily accessible and used by foreign adversaries to monitor and manipulate votes. The IP addresses into the Edison Research host service went in both directions, meaning that not only were China and Iran and other countries accessing the servers, but also Edison Research was communicating back to these adversaries. The claims that Dominion voting machines were not connected to the internet are completely false. Cybersecurity experts have followed the communication of the data from Dominion voting servers and Edison Research to foreign countries. A simple web search will uncover that DominionVotingSystems.com is registered to a company in Hunan, China. 3 of the 7 board members of UBS Securities are Chinese nationals. That company owns Staple Street Capital, which in turn owns Dominion. On top of that, the Dominion software is licensed from Smartmatic, which is a Venezuelan-owned and controlled company, and we're all familiar with how their elections go. Furthermore, forensic audits of the machines reveal significant errors. Although the mainstream media and politicians are saying that it's dangerous misinformation that Dominion voting systems are unsecure, this was the very message that several left-leaning news sources were claiming less than a year ago. NBC News and PBS found out just how easy it is to hack voting machines or cast fake votes.
It's important to know that Georgia just spent is about to spend over $100 million on a contract with Dominion to provide image cast hardware to the state in time for the next primaries and for the 2020 election. And yet here these kids were who had opened it up. They said, look, you can pop the front off of it and here's a port you can get into right here. That's easy. You know, all kinds of stuff that you could certainly do within 6 minutes behind a curtain, much less if you had extra time because any of these were connected to the web, as we discovered a couple of days before, so many of them are.
Despite opposition and attacks, election security experts were able to audit Dominion voting machines in Antrim County, Michigan, revealing unusually high error and adjudication rates. What does that mean? According to the report, Dominion Voting Systems is intentionally designed with inherent errors to create systemic fraud and influence election results. Ballot errors are sent to adjudication, which means the vote can be decided by an election worker where there is no oversight, no transparency, and no audit trail.
We've scanned 113,130 as of moments ago. We've adjudicated 106,000 plus of those.
Experts identified an error rate of 68.05%, which is far above the Federal Election Commission guidelines of 0.0008%, or 1 in 250,000. Although vote adjudication logs are available for prior election years, suspiciously, all the logs for the 2020 cycle were missing. Moreover, all security logs prior to 11:03 p.m. on November 4th are also missing. If that's not enough, the election event designer log shows that the Dominion image cast precinct cards were reprogrammed on October 23rd and again on November 5th, which violates the Help America Vote Act, which includes a 90-day safe harbor period that prohibits changes to election systems, registries, hardware, and software updates without undergoing recertification. Even if skeptics and critics persist that these issues are inconsequential, they should be willing for forensic audits to take place for transparency, yet they have viciously attacked attempts to review logs. Why is that if there's nothing to hide? Election officials in Maricopa County, Arizona have even ignored subpoenas for release of election data and Dominion machine audits until after the inauguration. Then there's the mass influx of unsolicited mail-in ballots. The key word is unsolicited. In other words, people receiving ballots they never asked for. Politicians use the coronavirus to push mass mail-in ballots and extending the time to receive those ballots till many days after the election. There are many reports of people who voted in person also receiving multiple unsolicited ballots in the mail. People who did not send in a mail-in ballot denied in-person voting because they were told they had voted already by mail when they hadn't. This opened up chaos in the system and uncertainty as to who actually voted. Additionally, signature verification requirements were slackened in many states, adding even more uncertainty. In fact, the Pennsylvania Secretary of State unilaterally removed legislative signature requirements for mail-in ballots. More than 1,000 signed affidavits have been given by poll workers who have witnessed illegal activities, non-equal treatment of Republican poll watchers, counting ballots in locations with no poll watchers not permitted close enough to see the counting process, shredding ballots, garbage bags full of ballots for Trump, entire boxes of hundreds of supposedly mail-in ballots that have no folds, indicating they were never actually mailed by anyone. The list goes on and on. These affidavits are signed by witnesses under penalty of perjury, so this should not have been taken lightly, but these witnesses were never heard in court. Unfortunately, what we have covered is only the tip of the iceberg on fraud, cover-ups, federal election law violations, and dishonesty on a global scale.
So either the Secretary of State's office is recording and certifying results that have negative errors and fraudulent votes in them, or someone is giving them negative information.
Recent polls show an overwhelming percentage of the U.S. don't trust the 2020 election was without fraud. At the end of this video, the credits will be further data scrolling through that you can read for yourself, and pause and go back and read again. So what can you do? Firstly, find a way to download this video and share it. Film it with your mobile phone. Do anything to duplicate this. Post it with a hashtag, "Here is the evidence," hashtag every legal vote. Because guaranteed, big tech and social media giants will do their best to erase it from the internet, as they've already done with much of the evidence we've already shared. And if they can't erase it, they'll fake fact-check it. Well, guess what? We've already done the fact-checking. We've gone through thousands of pages of data, sworn affidavits, forensic reports, and cybersecurity reports. Secondly, you can demand election reform from your election state and local officials. We cannot let another election ever be this questionable ever again. This is the United States of America. People used to look to us on how to have democracy through our voting system. 2020 was a complete sham, and it cannot ever happen again.